Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Adam Interviews. We are rolling. We are well into our second month of this series. We're so grateful for all of you who have gotten the Rochester First app. You're watching, and you're seeing the incredible people we have in our community doing incredible things. Joining me now, one of those people, Mitch Gruber, Chief Impact Officer for Foodlink. Mitch, you've been with Foodlink for a while now, and we've covered a lot of the developments. It has gotten to be such a huge operation over the years. What is it, 12 counties now?
10 counties.
10 counties, and we do the Food for Families with you. We partner with you every year. It's remarkable to see everything you do, and you may soon be asked to do more as we hear about the potential SNAP changes because of the government shutdown. Why don't we just start with what's actually happening out there? I think we see a lot of headlines, but what's actually going down and what's the potential later this week?
Yeah, there's so much happening at once, and I think a lot of things have been and will continue to be kind of conflated, so I'll try to pull some pieces apart. First of all, there were really significant cuts to SNAP benefits voted into law in July in the bill that the Republican Congress passed. That includes major changes to eligibility. Who gets SNAP benefits? How do they prove they're eligible? Lots of stuff happening that happened to have a November 1 start date. On top of that, we have a government shutdown that began in October, and right away it was announced that all October SNAP benefits would be fully paid for. But there was an acknowledgement that if the shutdown lasted past October, there may not be money for November. And those two forces are kind of converging on each other, and it's a bit of a tidal wave right now. And I'll just share, as you kind of mentioned in the intro, the reality is that Foodlink and every food bank across the country is here predominantly to be a supplement to SNAP benefits. The reality is that there's no work that food banks can do, there's no work that the charitable sector can do that really begins to supplement what SNAP benefits do. That's money in people's pockets to be able to buy the food they need for them and their families. So when that's cut, and we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, not in the country, but right here in New York State, in upstate New York, every month, when those benefits are cut, it hurts everyone. It hurts businesses, it hurts individual people, and most folks who are really in need come to the food bank or the food pantries they serve asking for support. So we're trying to both navigate and communicate what does it mean if SNAP benefits are cut because of the shutdown, and what does it mean that there were changes to eligibilities that started because of the OBBBA.
Let's step back, and you already touched upon it, but what does SNAP do? How does it operate?
So SNAP stands for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It is colloquially known as food stamps. That's still how many people talk about it. That's what it used to be called before the law changed several decades ago. And it is an income qualifying program where if you make under a certain threshold, and it all depends on are you a single person or are there 3, 4, or 5 kids in your household, if you make under a certain threshold, that you get dollars that go directly to what's called an EBT card, an electronic benefits transfer card, that you can go use to buy on food at virtually any retailer. SNAP is, unlike a lot of other government programs that involve retail, SNAP is widely accessible. Most retailers accept it, so it becomes a huge part of someone's regular household budget for buying all food items.
So even if Foodlink had a tremendous amount of food, what makes SNAP different, among other things, is that you can use it anywhere. So distribution becomes an issue as well, not just the supply.
Yeah, of course. And the average person, I just heard that the average SNAP benefit for a single person is about $230 a month. So that's, a lot of people would argue that's not enough money to get you through a month, and I think that's probably a fair argument. But to put that $230 a month now on the emergency food sector becomes incredibly challenging for a multitude of reasons.
You might have seen some of this coming because you were saying part of the wave that's about to hit was seen in the summer, early summer, late spring, and now this. What can be done, what is being done on not just Foodlink, but on the county and state side right now?
Yeah, so I think there's two separate things, right? There's the advocacy part of this. So I think it's really important that we all collectively advocate with our legislators to make sure that people know how important SNAP benefits are and make sure that everyone is ready to do whatever they can to maintain benefits for folks. So Foodbank does a lot of that work with partners across the community. And again, I want to urge, there's a lot of people who are talking right now, and frankly, a lot of news organizations that are talking like SNAP benefits are cut November 1 as a fait accompli. It's not true. There's still a long time between today and November 1st. It's not a lot of days, but the days are all going to be very long, and there's a lot of jostling happening right now in DC and in state capitals across the country. So nothing is set in stone. There's advocacy to be done, and people should keep advocating. Separately, what Foodbank is doing, what food banks across the country are doing, is really bolstering our inventory to make sure we have extra food if, in fact, SNAP benefits are not dispersed on November 1. So we announced the creation of an emergency food fund several weeks ago. We've been raising money steadily, and we have been increasing what's available to all the food pantries and soup kitchens that we serve, and we'll keep doing that. And we're also ready to potentially add some additional distributions as we had to do during the peak of COVID as well.
So, I mean, there's kind of a precedent set as far as like quick organization. Speaking of kind of quick response, I'm seeing a lot of people on social media. I'm even getting some texts saying, what can I do? What can I do to help? And, you know, obviously a lot of us have gone to Foodlink to pack and whatnot. My guess is that might overwhelm the system if too many people came by to actually put hands in the pot at this point.
Yeah, I think the things that I would tell people are, first of all, there's always, everyone has a local food pantry near them. I mean, this is not an issue that is specifically for urban or rural or suburban communities. It is everywhere. There's not a single town in Monroe County that does not have a food pantry. There's not a single rural community that does not have significant food needs. And by the way, SNAP benefits exist in all of those places. So I think it's really important for, first of all, folks should know, reach out to your local food pantry. If you want help finding your local food pantry, you can go to foodlinkny.org, and right on our home screen, there's a page called, button called Find Food. You can go, look in a map, zoom in, find the food pantry nearest you. There's be contact information. They likely will love the opportunity to have more people who want to help and support in different ways. I'd also share that right now, Foodbank is really working hard to raise dollars specifically to increase how much food we can buy. This is not about waiting for donations. We're not hoping and believing food will come in. We are going out with as much money as we can and buying food and using economies of scale. You know, Foodbank can buy a full truckload instead of having to go and buy individual retail cases and quantities. So that's what we're working on, and depending on where a person wants to help, either let us know at Foodlink or let your individual food pantry know, and there's lots of stuff to be done still.
And I'm guessing a lot of that will be non-perishable, so even if the shutdown ends or they decide to fund SNAP independent of the shutdown, the food bank, the Foodlink, can use that in the future.
Correct. And again, we would have a couple of different items, things that we know are always important. Shelf-stable proteins, things like tuna and peanut butter, those are always incredibly important. And we could give people that list, and we'll make sure it's available on our website, foodlinkny.org. But each individual food pantry will be able to tell someone what their needs are. So whatever town you live in, whatever neighborhood you live in, that's my recommendation is if you want to help out, get in touch with your food pantry and see what you can do to be helpful.
And you have to excuse my ignorance here. Could the government fund SNAP benefits outside of the shutdown debates? Like, let's say both sides say, we're not ready to come to the table, but we need to fill this hole.
They could, and they're talking about it. There's actually a bill that was sponsored by a Republican, by Josh Hawley in Missouri, specifically to do just that. On top of that, the USDA has contingency funds. And so right now we've heard from a lot of people, leaders in Congress across the aisle, is asking the USDA to use some of those contingency funds to fund SNAP benefits. The Trump administration has thus far said no, they won't do that. They've even said no, they're not legally allowed to do that. But again, you have people like Senator Susan Collins and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and everyone else across the board who are saying, let's not let people go hungry in this country. Let's fund SNAP benefits with contingency funds. So that's an option. States have also had different conversations about what opportunities states can step in if the federal government is still shut down. So again, there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of conversations, and I suspect that each day will look different. And by the time the end of this week hits, there'll probably be some clarity, and I will continue to hold out hope that there will be some opportunity for the government to do the right thing.
You and your team, you're on the ground floor. You see the need that's out there. What does it look like for some families if this were to happen and SNAP benefits were to be completely removed for 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line?
People are feeling really desperate and panicked right now. And, you know, to make matters worse, on top of the impacts of the big bill that was passed back in July, on top of the government shutdown, we're also entering the holiday season. We're entering the busiest time of year naturally for the emergency food system. We're entering the time that more and more people find themselves needing help from the charitable sector than any other time of year. And so right now, all those forces are coming together to make people feel really, really panicked and desperate. And we're trying our best to make sure that folks know that there is support out there. There's things people can do. But I will tell you that no one makes good decisions when they're panicked or desperate. Mm-hmm. And I really, really hope that we all collectively find a way to advocate and to get the federal government to do what it needs to do and fund these benefits. And if not, then folks know that there are several places to be able to go and get the food they need for their families. And that, in fact, this food is for everyone.
What do you mean by that?
There's a lot of people who I think have never used the emergency food system before and would not necessarily be comfortable using it for the first time. But that's what it's here for. Mm-hmm. You know, think about the first word in that, the emergency food system. This is an emergency. If SNAP benefits are cut in the month of November, and holidays are coming and we're starting to see colder weather and heating bills are going up. These are all real emergencies, and we're going to make sure that there's as much food as possible for folks to tap into it in an emergency.
One potentially comforting aspect of this, from what I gather, because SNAP is money and it's not just food, should, let's say a week in, it get replenished, they can go right out. It's not like there'd be a buildup to help people, I'm hoping.
Correct. And actually in 2018, when we had the longest shutdown until this one, there actually was a brief, we actually called it the SNAP gap. There was a brief gap, I think it was the month of February, where those payments were not distributed at the normal time that they were. But yes, the federal government can act quickly if there is in fact the appropriation of money.
And people can just go right out and then get the food that they need.
It's the beauty of the electronic benefits transfer, that it's on everyone's card. No one has to wait for things to go into mail. You will get notification that there's money on your card and you'll be able to go spend it. So yes, there's the ability to move quickly. That also just reminds me, one message I've been telling everyone is, if you get mail from your county, doesn't matter what county you live in, if you get mail from your county, this is a really important time. You should probably always open that letter, but in particular right now, the county is who ultimately disperses SNAP benefits. That's not the way it works everywhere, but in New York State, it goes from the federal government to OTDA at the state level to each county. So if you get a letter, please, please, please make sure you open it, read it. If you have any questions about what it includes, talk to someone. We're going to ultimately open up what we're going to call something like a SNAP hotline by the end of this week that gives people a chance to call and ask questions about it if they have questions. But that's where communication will come from directly, is from whatever county you live in, we'll be sending you mail.
And I think that's going to be part of it, kind of like COVID, which is make sure that you get the correct information, right? You want it throughout this process.
Correct.
So, and one way is to call, but another, I'm guessing you'll update the website. There'll be messaging through us and things like that.
Correct. And I'm hoping, I mean, I've been having great conversations with Monroe County DH, Department of Human Services, which I'm sure will continue to update their websites. I would hope that every county across the Channel 8 service area and our service area will similarly be offering more information on their website. But good information is the best thing we can have right now, other than a fully funded SNAP program. Yeah. And I really encourage people to make sure they're finding good sources of information and asking questions.
Do you think school districts might have to step up their role for kids? Because we always talk about breakfasts and lunches, things like that. Certainly, although frankly, it's another concern. And without trying to add additional panic, most of the National School Lunch Program and school breakfast is also federal funding. So there comes a time where if the shutdown lasts for a very long time and there continues to be these
these pain points. I don't know how long these programs are funded for right now, because that's baked into larger school funding, which is separate from something like SNAP. Yeah. But these programs also require federal funding, and that's not to mention things like Section 8, which is a hugely important program for people, again, across every community. So yes, there'll be more places that will have to kind of step up over the next couple of months, but everyone right now has some serious uncertainty about the future of their funding streams, their programs.
And I think you made a good point too. This doesn't just affect those who are food insecure right now, but also the farmers. I mean, it could, again, we're talking way long out, but if they're not selling, if people can't buy, then this could affect a huge number of people.
The farmers, the retailers. There's no retail stores that are going to be happy about this. And on top of that, if you really break it down and you look at the hierarchy of needs, what's higher than food? I mean, you're not going to have a healthy workforce. You're not going to have a healthy student body. No one can perform their best when they're hungry, and it is not a good idea to take food away from people.
Yeah, and I think this, like what happened during COVID, underscores the importance of the food bank. I think a lot of us are very grateful that the food bank is here. We may not see their workings on a day-to-day basis, but the fact that you're called upon in these true community-wide emergency situations underscores the need for a functional and well-funded food bank.
Yeah, absolutely. And the food banks don't typically get a significant amount of funding from the federal government, so we're in a good position to be able to continue to operate in the way that we need to. Food banks do typically get food from the federal government, surplus commodities, what was once called government cheese, but is now all sorts of different commodities, are items that every food bank gets, and it's a great relationship between the federal government and food banks. But funding, there's not a whole lot of connection there, which gives us an opportunity to be a little bit more nimble. But I can't stress this enough. SNAP benefits serve people in a much more position to thrive than if they have to rely on any kind of emergency charitable sector. So we'll keep doing what we do, but we can't do it in absence of ultimately having programs like SNAP.
Absolutely, and we talked about kind of the difficult aspects of distribution. How does that work? Did you evolve the program over the years during COVID to make yourself a little more flexible in getting food out to various areas?
Yeah, we particularly, it is a little bit harder to get food out to some of the rural communities that we serve. And again, we have 10 counties, 9 of them are classified and qualify as rural counties. Mm-hmm. And one of the hardest parts, the challenges there, is that in many of the rural communities, there's a much smaller social service network. Again, we don't serve hungry people at Foodbank. We serve the organizations that serve hungry people, the food pantries, the soup kitchens. There's a lot less of those in many of the rural communities that we serve. So we had to develop a whole lot of new strategies, including developing mobile, what we call pop-up pantries in many of these places, and it's worked very well. I think we have a really good network of places to be able to bring food. The other challenge in rural communities oftentimes is public transportation doesn't exist in many of them. There's literally just no bus service. Right. So that makes it a lot more challenging out there. In Monroe County, in Rochester, we have north of 90 different organizations that we serve food to, which is a pretty good spread considering the size of Monroe County. And again, every town has a food pantry. And every neighborhood in Rochester, or at least every quadrant in Rochester, has multiple. So we believe there's a pretty good spread here. And our position for this crisis is to really lean into our network, make sure they have what they need. During COVID, we had to actually develop new distribution points because many of these places were being told don't reopen. So thank goodness we're not in that same place. We can lean into the food pantries that have been serving this community well for decades, and that's what we're going to intend to do. Can the state help at all? The state has helped. Even this morning, Governor Hochul announced about $30 million going into the Emergency Food Network. That was money that we've been talking about for a while for every food bank across the state to get access to. That's helpful. That's money just to buy food, and we're going to buy a lot of it with it. So that's helpful. There are other states that have already said that if SNAP is not reinstated by November 1st, they will step in and they will pay for SNAP benefits. Of course, it's much easier for a state like Virginia announced that, much easier where there's about 750,000 people that receive SNAP, and in New York there's closer to 3 million, so it's a different sense of scale. But there's a lot of stuff New York State can do, and I'm certain that Governor Hochul is working on and thinking about those things.
One thing that I've taken away from the many years that I've been asked and been grateful to help out in the Food for Families is that we're not talking about an insignificant number of people here. This is not a small population. This would have implications on a good portion of our community.
Yeah, there's tens of thousands of people in Monroe County who receive SNAP benefits, and certainly I believe in Ontario County it's about 9,000, and then with each of the rural counties it's probably a little bit lower than that. But yes, thousands and thousands of people, probably upwards of 75,000 people total in our service area receive SNAP benefits. But we also know that we serve a lot of people out of the food bank who are not SNAP recipients. Right. So all told, the estimation is that probably around 150,000 people a year make a visit to a food pantry, and some of them make plenty more. And so, yeah, every bit that we can help, every ounce of food that we can get and make more available to people, the better. And again, every way that individuals can help their closest, nearest, most local food pantry is certainly going to help in the long run.
Yeah, and you strain a system that's helping maybe even those outside of the SNAP. Suddenly, more SNAP recipients come, and it could strain the system for even more people who aren't on that.
Correct, and FoodLink, on top of all that, we also operate the Curbside Market, which is the only mobile grocery store in the region, and we participate in a program that doubles everyone's SNAP benefits. Also, the Rochester Public Market doubles everyone's SNAP benefits. So we have all these programs in our community that actually helps people stretch their food dollars as far as they can go. I mean, you go to the Curbside Market or the public market, you are using SNAP benefits to buy healthy food, and then you're getting them doubled. To remove that right now and to make people have to figure out how to scramble for food is just not helpful to anyone, and even folks from those programs who end up coming into needing food pantry help will be another additional stretch.
One thing that I do find myself grateful for as we talked is that because of the generosity of the community prior to this, because of the innovations at FoodLink and the team, we are in a position where our local food bank can help significantly in a situation like this. And that makes me think that when this is over, it's further incentive to help your local food bank because they will be there in a time of crisis.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've been at FoodLink for about 17 years. Our CEO and our Chief Operating Officer, Julia Tedesco-Terrakel, have both been there about 17 years. When we started, we were about an 8 million pound a year food bank, and we're now distributing about 25 million pounds of food a year. And that's simply a function of the need growing. And it's not just in times of crisis. The last national election, I think it's safe to say, was largely about food prices. Right? I mean, that was one of the biggest issues we heard over and over and over again on the stump at a national level was about food prices. And we just haven't really seen them go down very much. People are ultimately, a lot of people are really strapped. People living paycheck to paycheck, even with livable wage jobs, are struggling to be able to make ends meet. And so the food banks across the country, but certainly FoodLink, has taken what we believe are the marching orders from the community to really be able to expand our mission a bit. So providing the food bank food and making sure every food pantry has what they need is one thing. We have a commercial kitchen that produces thousands of meals every day for school-age kids and older adults. We have the only mobile grocery store in the region that helps people stretch their food dollars as far as they can go, especially folks with mobility limitations. So all these things are intended to be helpful in a time of need, and hopefully in a time of crisis, people can know and rely on us.
So I'm going to have you send two messages to the community, and then we'll wrap up here. The first is to the SNAP recipients and those who are food insecure who may lean on FoodLink for their emergency supplement food needs, even if they're not on SNAP. Your message to them right now.
Our message is that we're going to make sure that we have as much food as we can possibly make available to every food pantry, soup kitchen, and shelter who utilizes our services, and to please, please, please make sure to lean into your relationships with those places and let us help you. That is the goal, and I can't say that if everyone loses SNAP benefits, Adam, we're not going to have enough food for everyone to make up for that, but we're going to do our best to make sure that we can make this as we're going to try to make sure that we have food available for folks when they need it. That's the clearest message to the folks who utilize our services, and foodlinkny.org. If you've never used our services before, that's the best way to find access to it.
And then your message to the community at large that's watching the whole picture and getting nervous, but particularly the SNAP issue, and they worry about their neighbor.
Yeah. Well, everyone is impacted by the SNAP cuts. There's no doubt about it. So to community members, I would say there's two real things that everyone can do. One is to continue to advocate, particularly with federal legislators, to make sure that folks know how important SNAP benefits are, and that during a conversation and a debate about whether the government is funded, one thing that should not be a byproduct is people's ability to feed themselves. So advocacy is huge. And then the other piece, of course, is making sure that you know where your local food pantry is, or you know how to tap into FoodLink if you're willing to offer some support to anyone in the emergency food network. And the best place to start is foodlinkny.org and the Find Food button.
Very good. Mitch Gruber, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, Mitch, the Chief Impact Officer over at FoodLink, our local food bank covering 10 counties in our area. They've been gearing up for months, getting ready for a scheduled change on November 1st. You add this to the mix, and we'll see where we go. All I can tell you is that having worked with Foodbank now for 15 years, I can tell you that the team is going to do everything they can to help out in this situation, and we will continue to cover it over the coming days and weeks. So stay with us on News 8, and also go get the Rochester First app for friends and family if they don't have it. We will continue our coverage, not just on air and online, but also through that streaming service. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.